New Thought Media Network proudly presents the Science of Mind Saturday Conversations. Learn more about the Science of Mind philosophy, faith, and way of life. Join our team of experts for a weekly deep dive discussion. Come study the science of mind, chapter by chapter, and resources from the Science of Mind archives. Plan to join us every Saturday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Only on the New Thought Media Network.
Well, good morning to you. Happy Saturday morning. It is, once again, it is time for the wonderful presentation that we call the Saturday Science of Mind and Spirit Conversations. And today, you get me, Rev Michael Mangus. I'm one of the staff ministers here at the New Thought Media Network and also a staff producer. It is wonderful to be here with you today. I have a wonderful presentation for you directly from the Science of Mind archives. Today, we're going to be talking about your spiritual broadcasting station, your spiritual broadcasting station. And this was a lecture that was given by Dr. Holmes on the radio back in 1952. So we'll talk about that today here on the Saturday morning conversations. All right, good to see everyone today. I see we have people coming into our room, and that's absolutely wonderful. Good to see everyone today. And again, this is an interactive program. So if you have comments, please, again, put them in the comments. If you have questions, again, put them in the comments. And if we have time, we'll get to them and answer. But again, thank you all for joining us today. I think we have a pretty good lecture today or sharing here. There we go. All right. All right. So we're talking today about your spiritual broadcasting station. And again, I'm very grateful that we're able to continue this conversation today. And again, if you have followed the series, you understand that, again, the first part of the year, that we go chapter by chapter through the Science of Mind text. And then the rest of the year, then, we get to go to the Science of Mind archives and get all kinds of wonderful materials from that to discuss. Reverend Kathy Mastriani is always appreciative when I put that up. scienceofmindarchives.com, scienceofmindarchives.com. So today, what we're doing is we're going back to March 2nd, 1952. So Holmes was speaking on the radio program, this thing called Life. Now, TV at that time was very young. There were no smartphones. There was no social media feeds, no podcasts, no 24-hour streams of notification. So radio was the great technology of the time. People understood antennas. They understood frequencies and static and tuning and broadcasting and receiving. So Holmes took that very familiar technology, which in and of itself wasn't that old. It was probably maybe even 50 years old. But he took that familiar technology and used it to describe something invisible but deeply practical. And that is the activity of consciousness. So he opens the article with this question. Did you ever stop to think that you are a spiritual and mental broadcasting station, and the messages that are going out from you in all directions at all times. So that's our question tonight. That's our question today. What is my station broadcasting? So not merely what words am I saying, not merely what images am I presenting, but also what atmosphere am I carrying into a room, into a Zoom call, into a family conversation, into my workplace, into my social media activity, and into the quiet place where no one seems to be listening. So Holmes said this. He said that our thoughts, feelings, emotions, faith, and fears all participate in the broadcast. Long before we speak, something in us may already be communicating. Now, most of us have experienced this. Some walk into a room and say, well, I'm fine. But the room knows otherwise. Maybe that's you. Maybe that's me. Or someone else enters without needing to dominate the conversation. And there's such a grounded peace with them that everyone breathes a little easier. We might call this mood or presence or attitude or emotional contagion or atmosphere. It doesn't matter. Holmes calls it our attention as an activity of consciousness. It's an activity of consciousness. So today it's not about blaming ourselves for every passing thought. It is not about becoming anxious about whether or not we're thinking perfectly. And it's certainly not about pretending that pain, injustice, grief, or difficulties do not exist, because they do. So this is a conversation today about spiritual agency. It's about learning that we are not helpless radios with broken dials. Isn't that nice? And that we participate in the quality of consciousness that we cultivate by the meaning that we assign to it, the response that we rehearse, and the spiritual reality to which we return. It is time for a sip of coffee. And I encourage all of us to take our mug of tea or coffee and have a sip. Excuse me. So if it's comfortable now, just place your feet on the floor if you can. So take one easy breath in. Inhale and exhale. So without judging yourself, ask inwardly this question. What has my station been broadcasting today? What has my station been broadcasting today? All right. So whatever you notice, it's not a verdict. It's information. Awareness is the beginning of choice here. So Holmes wrote in the article, he says, we are all spiritual broadcasting stations, whether or not we know it, and whether or not we like it. Isn't that interesting? Our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our faith, our fears tend to make an imprint on our environment, to flow through everything that we do and to influence everyone that we meet. So from a science of mind perspective, this rests upon a foundational teaching that there is only one mind, one infinite field of being, and each of us is an individualized expression within it. So we're not isolated fragments sealed off from life. We live and we move and we have our being and we create within a larger spiritual whole. So the science of mind teaches that thought is creative. Not because every fleeting idea instantaneously becomes a physical event. and not because the human personality is the supreme power of the universe, but it's because consciousness gives form. Consciousness gives form, direction, expectation, and meaning to our experience. Remember this, that habitual thought becomes a mental pattern. This pattern influences our perception. Perception influences our choice. Choice influences our action. Action influences relationship and circumstance. And beneath this psychological sequence, Dr. Holmes talks about and sees a spiritual law responding to the impress of our consciousness, and we call it the law. So in classic New Thought language, spirit is the presence, the intelligence, the limitless possibility. Law is the receptive creative medium. Our conscious thought here gives direction, and the deeper subjective level receives the pattern and acts upon it. So this is why Ernest Holmes' radio image works so well. A broadcast is not a single sentence. It is a repeated signal. If a station reportedly transmits one kind of music, we come to know its format. In the same way here, the deeper creative levels of mind is impressed less by an isolated passing thought than by the pattern then that we repeatedly, energetically believe, feel, and embody. So you and I, we need not to panic here when we have a fearful thought that crosses in our mind. We can simply notice it. We can simply say, well, that's static, and that's not the program that I choose to sponsor. And then we can return to a deeper truth here. So the practical question today is not whether or not that I have ever felt fear. Of course, all of us have. The practical question here that we're asking is, what thought do I repeatedly authorize? What conclusion do I keep rehearsing? What story have I promoted from a passing guest into the manager of the station? So consider two people, they receive the same email. Can we talk tomorrow? So one person's internal station immediately broadcast, I'm in trouble. Something has gone wrong. I'm going to lose. And again, usually that's from past programming, past experiences. So the other one, though, notices the uncertainty, but also chooses. I do not know yet what this means, but I'm capable, I'm guided, and I'm willing to make and to meet the conversation with clarity. So the email's the same here. The inner broadcast, though, is different. And that broadcast that we have affects our sleep, our body tension, the tone of our voice, preparation, and the quality of the conversation the next day. Practical metaphysics begins right here. And again, just let me take a moment for my written notes just to say that it's not how much you know here in the science of mind. It's not how much you know in New Thought. It's how much you use, how much you actually take to heart and start using each and every day. So again, our practical metaphysics begin right there, not in controlling every external event, but in remembering that we have a choice about the consciousness that we bring to it. I'll say it again. You and I, have a choice about the consciousness that we bring to it. So here's a simple 3-part station check here today. The first one is this: what am I repeatedly saying inwardly? What am I repeatedly saying inwardly? Second, what feeling does that message generate and sustain? And third, is this message aligned with the nature of spirit, of love and wholeness and wisdom, freedom and possibility? So again, this is not about beating yourself up. So if you don't feel aligned, there's no condemnation here. We just retune. We just get back on the path. That's all. Dr. Holmes also adds a crucial second half of this. He says, we are also receiving sets. So I'll go ahead and interject there. So we're not only transmitters, but we're also receivers. And it's called a transceiver, using the language from amateur radio, of which I am a extra class operator, plus also hold a commercial radio operator's license from the Federal Communications Commission here in the United States of America. So again, we are also receiving sets, but it doesn't follow that we must tune into every program being broadcast. So that sentence that Holmes talked about on the radio is probably more relevant today than it was back in 1952. So today, entire industries compete for our attention. Our devices learn what keeps us activated: outrage, danger, comparison, and conflict can hold attention. And what holds attention is often repeated. Now, if we don't choose our mental frequency consciously, an algorithm will gladly choose it for us. So it doesn't mean today that we should become uninformed or indifferent. There's a difference between being informed and being saturated. There's a difference between compassionate awareness and compassionate consumption. And there's a difference between witnessing suffering so that we can respond wisely and repeatedly flooding the nervous system until we feel powerless. So Holmes's metaphor gives us a spiritual form of media literacy. The fact is that a signal is available does not require it for me to receive it. I'll say it again. The fact that a signal is available does not require me to receive it. So the fact is that if someone is angry, it doesn't require me to become angry and also to become an angry relay tower. The fact is that fear is popular doesn't make fear prophetic. The fact that criticism is circulating does not mean that I must rebroadcast it. The fact is that a thought appears in my mind does not make it a spiritual truth. So we can add 4 questions here before we allow any message to take residence in our consciousness. Number one, is it true? Or is it merely repeated? Number two, is it mine? Or have I absorbed someone else's anxiety? Number three, is it useful? Does it lead to wise action? And number four, is it aligned with divine reality that I claim to believe in? Ernest Holmes describes a person filled with the fear of failure who becomes to notice and collect every signal of failure. We would now recognize part of this as selective attention or confirmation bias. The mind becomes skilled at finding evidence for the conclusion it already expects. So conversely here, when a person cultivates faith, expectancy, and confidence, that person becomes more able to notice opportunities, support creativity, and connection. And again, this isn't magic in the shallow sense. It's the creative partnership of spiritual connection, of attention, behavior, relationship, and also the law. So suppose that I enter a gathering, convinced that no one will welcome me. I may avoid eye contact. I may stand apart, answer briefly, and interpret a distracted face as rejection. My expectation influences my behavior. My behavior influences the response, and the response appears to confirm my original belief. Now, suppose that I'm grounded in this affirmation. The one life in me meets the one life in everyone here. I belong to life, and I feel and I bring a genuine interest and goodwill. What happens if I'm broadcasting that? I look up, I smile. I ask a real question. I listen. I become available to connection. And again, my consciousness is not controlled by other people. It's making me available to a different quality of participation. That distinction matters here. Science of mind doesn't give us metaphysical permission to manipulate others. Boy, that's really dangerous. Don't do that. We are not trying to tune into another's radio frequency by force here, but we're taking responsibility, though, for our own dial. Well, if you've just tuned in, welcome to the Science of Mind Saturday Conversations here on the New Thought Media Network. Let's see what kind of comments we have here. Practical metaphysics is the best. Hi, Linda. Good morning. She said, I tuned in a bit late. Can you say again what Holmes resource that you are using today? Of course, Linda. I am using from here, I even have a banner up here. It says, today we're focusing on your spiritual broadcasting station. And that's available from the Science of Mind archives. Your spiritual broadcasting station. And then again, it was a talk that was first given by Dr. Holmes back in 1952. All right. So if you are joining today from across the nation and also around the globe, what I'd like you to do today is to participate. Okay? Place one word in the chat here, not the whole story, but one word. What frequency would you like to receive less of this week? Perhaps it's hurry, it's comparison, it's resentment or scarcity or fear. Go ahead, put those in the chat. All right. What kind of frequency would you like to receive less of this week? One word or two words or possibly three, but that's the maximum. All right. So, also, either in the chat or in your heart here, name the frequency that you choose instead: peace, authenticity, sufficiency, confidence, compassion, clarity, or joy. So, this is not yet the whole practice, but it is the moment in which the hand returns to the dial and goes ahead and tunes to another frequency. Let's see what we have commented here. Okay. All right. So, yes. Hi, Jermaine. It says debating. Linda says doubt. So these are the ones that we're kind of letting go of this week, and we're tuning into another station. And authenticity, I like that. That's a real good station to tune into. Authenticity. Okay, so early in the message here, hold on here. We have a station update here. Confidence and delight. How wonderful it would be if we broadcast that instead of all the other fear and everything else. All right. So early in the message, Dr. Holmes said this. He said that since all energy returns to its source and everything moves in circles, the messages you broadcast will come back to you. The messages that you broadcast will come back to you. So we should hear this today as a metaphysical principle of correspondence and circulation, not as a simplistic formula for blaming people for every event in their lives. Myself and also Robert, the Reverend Dr. Robert Brzezinski, we have heard other colleagues talk about that they have been hearing either online or in conversation, individuals going up to others and saying, well, you're experiencing that. What in your consciousness are you carrying? What in your consciousness are you believing? Please don't do that. For goodness sakes, please never, ever do that. That is metaphysical malpractice. To say, well, what's in your consciousness? Don't do that. That's very unkind. In Centers for Spiritual Living, we teach our practitioners, we teach our ministers never to say that because it's not helpful. Yet here, what we're doing here is that human experiences here also include collective conditions, other people's choices, history, biology, systems, chance, and mystery. So compassion must always govern our interpretation. Yet here, there is still a practical truth that what we constantly send into the relationship tends to shape the relational field in which we live. Suspicion invites defensiveness. Contempt closes doors. Genuine respect makes honesty safer. Gratitude sensitizes us to good. Generosity builds channels through which support can circulate. So Holmes writes this. He says that animosity can arouse matching animosity and that one can accentuate the others. And again, we can see this in families and workplaces, public discord, and also online exchanges. One sharp message produces a sharper reply. The reply justifies the original anger. Soon, no one remembers the issue. Everyone is defending the broadcast. Now get this though. But someone can interrupt the circuit. And that is one of the more empowering implications of this teaching, is that consciousness can introduce a new quality into an old pattern. We can become what system thinkers may call or might call a pattern interrupter. In spiritual language, we can become a place in which the chain reaction ends and a new cause begins. So imagine a colleague sending a terse message. The old broadcast says, well, they don't respect me. And the old response is an equally terse reply. But what would happen if this happened? If we would pause, if we would breathe, if we remember that nothing outside of us defines the divine presence in us, then we answer clearly and firmly and without poison. I want to make sure that I completely understand. Are you asking for this by Thursday? So if so, let's clarify what can realistically be completed. So we have not become passive. We have become causative. We have chosen a response rather than becoming an automatic repeater station. So this is where practical metaphysics becomes ethical. What we broadcast contributes to the atmosphere that others must breathe. We are responsible not only for what we attract, but for what we add. So that applies in our homes here. Before we cross the threshold, physically or virtually, we may ask, well, what atmosphere am I bringing with me? This also applies to leadership too. What unspoken messages does my presence give the people that I lead? It applies to our spiritual community here. Do I broadcast welcome only to the people already familiar to me, or does my attention make room for the newcomer? It also applies online. Does this post contribute light understanding or useful truth, or am I forwarding emotional static? So here's a helpful evening inventory. And if I'm going a little fast, I apologize for that. But again, what's nice about all of this is that we archive this on our YouTube page. So you can go back for free and go ahead and repeat it over and over again until you get some of the points that maybe that you missed while writing them down. So here's a helpful evening inventory. So what or where did I add peace today? Where did I amplify fear or agitation? Where did I withhold my light because I was waiting for someone else to change first? And what signal do I choose to strengthen tomorrow? Again, and I'm the reason I say this is because that, again, a lot of individuals use New Thought to beat themselves up. The purpose of this is not guilt, for goodness sakes. Guilt is just another frequency that keeps attention trapped in the past. The purpose here is becoming aware and being a conscious creator. I really like this in the article. And again, you can go ahead and you can either purchase it or you can go and become a subscriber like I am. a yearly subscriber to the Science of Mind archive. So you can read the whole article there. But Holmes gives us one of the more memorable images in the article. So if someone throws a brick at us, we don't have to catch it. It is far easier just to step aside. Then he observes this, that we usually catch the brick because we want to throw it back, don't we? And before long, this is from Ernest Holmes, he says, the air is full of bricks. It's funny because it's true. We catch criticism, we rehearse it, we personalize it, we polish it up, and we prepare it for our return throw here. And sometimes the original brick wasn't even aimed at us. We simply found it lying in the comment section and we decided to carry it all day long. So what does it mean metaphysically to step aside? It does not mean to tolerate abuse. It does not mean abandoning boundaries. It doesn't mean refusing a necessary conversation. It means refusing to let another person choose our consciousness for us. We can say that behavior is not acceptable without being hateful about it. And we can say no without making the other person spiritually inferior. We can leave a harmful situation while affirming the divine dignity of everyone involved here. Love is not weakness. Love is the consciousness that refuses to reproduce the very thing that is trying to heal. So Ernest Holmes in the article suggests that when others pour negation over us, that we can keep perfectly still inside and respond in a calm, easy, and helpful manner. Stillness inside is the key. If we merely paste pleasant words over inner fury, we have not changed the broadcast. We have only lowered the volume while transmitting the same program. So inner stillness may require a pause before response. It may require feeling the emotion honestly in a safe place. It may require prayer or therapy or counseling or a boundary. So practical metaphysics here is not the suppression of human feelings. That's a misinterpretation of the teaching over the years. I mean, I was taught, don't pay attention to your feelings, just keep doing your affirmation. That in and of itself, ladies and gentlemen, from my experience, does not work. It is the refusal to enthrone a temporary feeling as an ultimate truth, though. So try this. This is a wonderful 4-step brick practice. You pause. You don't transmit while flooded. So you pause. So you name whatever feeling that you have. I notice hurt. I notice anger. I notice the disrespect. So naming it creates a little space here. So then I pause, I name, and I remember this feeling is present, but it's not the whole of me. Divine presence within me remains intact. And choose. Then pause, name, remember, and choose. Now we ask, what response serves truth and dignity and the greatest good available now? It's the choice between reacting and responding. And from personal experience, reaction has gotten me into a whole lot of trouble with individuals and even with some of the people in Centers for Spiritual Living. But when I learned to respond to it, even if the other person is saying some really interesting things. When I learn and come from a place of response, then the relationship is healed. Understanding comes forth. So notice here, again, in our steps of pause, name, remember, and choose, that the final step is not only silence. Sometimes choice is a response that is a courageous conversation. Sometimes it's clear boundaries. Sometimes it's an apology. And sometimes it's logging off, turning off the phone. And sometimes it's deciding that no response is required. The metaphysical power here is in knowing that the brick does not come with instructions. We do not have to catch it. We don't have to throw it. We don't have to build a house on it, but we can step aside and we can remain available to wisdom. So this morning here, think about one brick that you're carrying. An old criticism, a harsh comment, or an expectation that was never yours. Again, you don't have to solve your whole history this morning, but just imagine setting that brick down. Feel the hand open. Feel the shoulders release and say inwardly, I return this to nothingness. I keep the wisdom and I release the wound. I'll say it again. I return this to nothingness. I keep the wisdom and I release the wound. I return this to nothingness. I keep the wisdom and I release the wound. All right. So again, if you've joined us this morning, hello there. This is the Science of Mind Saturday Conversations here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Reverend Michael, and we are talking about your spiritual broadcasting station. So up to this point here, Holmes's advice could be and sound like useful self-help psychology. Manage your attention, stay flexible, do not react, emphasize the positive. He does acknowledge that some of this is a psychological trick. No good one. But he takes us deeper here. He says, but even this isn't enough. We are all rooted in the mind of God. And that is the heart of the message here today. We are not merely trying to become better managers of a private, separate mind. We are learning here how to tune consciously to the one mind in which our individual mind exists. So in our teaching here, God is not a distant personality withholding peace until we say the right words. God is an infinite presence, spirit, intelligence, love, the reality already present at the center and circumference of our very being, our very existence. To tune to the mind of God is to become receptive to what is eternally true beneath the static, beneath the noise. Holmes said this. He said, do not be afraid to talk to God. Always remember that God speaks a certain kind of language, and I'll interject there, the language is love. And there's nothing negative in it. So what is this language of God? Well, again, it's the language of wholeness, of possibility, of love, order, freedom, beauty, intelligence, and life. So it doesn't mean that our prayers can't be honest. We can bring grief and anger and confusion and fear into prayer. The Psalms certainly do. Go through and read the Psalms sometime. Again, it says that the author is David, but I'm kind of thinking it was other people too. But they're saying, God, I'm doing the right things, but people around me are they're attacking me. And I need help. But Holmes, though, invites us not to stop at describing the problem to God, as though the infinite needs briefing. Prayer shifts when we move from talking at God about the signs of the condition to speaking from an awareness of the nature of God. So instead of God, everything is terrible, I do not know what to do, we may begin with, well, there is one infinite intelligence presence here. Its wisdom is available here. I'm not separate from the guidance I seek. Instead of, there's never enough, we begin with, infinite life is giving of itself without depletion. I'm open here to wise circulation, right action, and the good already seeking expression. So again, this is not spiritual language to force a preferred outcome. It's establishing consciousness in reality before we act. So this is not using, again, Holmes recommends that we all sit quietly and tell God how wonderful we know the divine to be and how glad and grateful we are. Gratitude within us retunes the receiver. It turns the attention from absence to presence, from isolation to participation, from demand to communion. And there is a profound difference between trying to manufacture a blessing and becoming receptive to the blessing that's inherent in life. The first is strain, and we've all done it. But the second is alignment. So Holmes tells us here to definitely take time each and every day to tune into harmony and beauty and peace. So let's make that counsel concrete with a practice that you can use this week. I call it tune, Tune. So you take inventory, unhook, name the divine truth, and embody the new broadcast. So number one, take inventory. T. What station am I tuned into right now? Now, again, notice the dominant message without shame. Is it hurry? Is it scarcity? Is it resentment? Is it fear? Is it helplessness? Or is it trust? Is it curiosity, sufficiency, and love? Again, just be specific here. Everything is awful is pretty vague here. Perhaps the actual message is this, though. I believe I have to do this alone. So once the pattern is named, it's no longer operating entirely in the dark. So take inventory, T. The U here is unhook from the signal. Take a breath. Put the phone down. Step away from the argument. Feel your feet. Say, this is a signal passing through awareness. It is not a definition of me here. Unhooking here may include changing what we consume. Ernest Holmes in the article jokes that we do not always have to read the obituary notices. So in our time, we might say that we do not have to begin and end the day by doom scrolling. We can set wise limits without becoming indifferent to the world. So T, take inventory, U, unhook from the signal, and now go ahead and name the divine truth. So identify a truth that's rooted in the nature of God. So if the old broadcast here is, oh, well, I'm alone, the divine truth might be, I live in an indivisible spiritual whole. Support, wisdom, and companionship are available, and I am guided towards them. So again, an affirmation is not a slogan shouting at fear. It's a deliberate statement of spiritual reality that we are willing to inhabit. We are stepping away from the old and we are tuning in to the divine essence. So the E in tune is embody a new broadcast. Ask, if I truly believe this, what would I do next? Make the phone call, rest, apologize, apply, create the budget, ask for help, take a walk, set boundaries, offer encouragement. Spiritual realization seeks embodiment. The final step prevents affirmative prayer from becoming wishful thinking here. We do not merely transmit success while refusing every practical avenue through which success could arrive. We can align thought, feeling, word, and action. So here's the whole practice in one example. I notice that I'm broadcasting. I am behind, and there will be never enough time. I am unhooking by taking 3 deep breaths and closing the unnecessary tabs. I name the truth. Divine intelligence orders my mind and reveals the essential next step. I embody it by choosing the one task that matters most and give it my undivided minutes. So that's practical metaphysics here. It joins spiritual truth with lived action. So try this tune method here. Practice it once in the morning, once when activated, and once before going to sleep. Now, the goal here is not to become perfectly positive. The goal here is to increase spiritual congruence. The station within us becomes more consistent with the reality of what we really believe. All right. I have more, but I'm just going to let it go. That's enough for today. Well, again, thank you so very much for joining us today. And let me give another plug for the Science of Mind archives. You can buy articles from the Science of Mind archives, including this one, or you can do like I do. It is the best $99 I spend every year because, again, it gives me access to all of this wonderful material that is made available through the archives. So again, scienceofmindarchives.com. Go there. Become a subscriber. Buy the articles. And again, the articles, 99 cents up to $2.50. Now, there are some books, though, again, that including the source book of The Science of Mind, which is a little more money, that was authored by my teacher, Dr. Tom Senar. But again, just look through the archives, all the resources there. All right? Okay. Well, again, thank you for joining us today. Again, I know I've thrown a lot at you today, and that's okay. You can go back and take a look at it, okay? So with my morning cup of coffee, I wish you a very good Saturday morning on behalf of all of us here at the New Thought Media Network and also at the Science of Mind Archives. I'm Rev Michael Mangus, and I'm going to wish you a real pleasant day and also a real pleasant week. Thank you again.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents the Science of Mind Saturday Conversations. Learn more about the Science of Mind philosophy, faith, and way of life. Join our team of experts for a weekly deep dive discussion. Come study the Science of Mind, chapter by chapter, and resources from the Science of Mind archives. Plan to join us every Saturday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, only on the New Thought Media Network.
Imagine a gathering where inspiration becomes action, where spiritual vision becomes a shared future, and where the power of new thought comes alive in community. Join us for New Thought in the Desert 2026, Living the Power of New Thought. We are getting together September 17th through the 20th in Las Vegas. Begin by putting love into action through sacred service. Then experience inspiring speakers and spiritual leaders from Unity, Centers for Spiritual Living, Agape, and beyond, along with powerful conversations, interactive experiences, and a collaborative vision for the future of our movement.
I focus on harmony. How do I live into that?
Celebrate with Faith Rivera in concert. Celebrate, communicate, connect. Together, we are living the power of new thought. Join us in Las Vegas. Visit lasvegascsl.org to learn more and register today.